Here we are back with part 2 of LS swapping this 1986 C10 Scottsdale. Now, I guess one thing I didn't do in the first video is kind of give you a little backstory on this truck. This is technically not my truck. It's mine while it's in my driveway, but this is not my truck. I am finishing up this LS swap for a friend. He lowered it and put the wheels and tires on it, and we actually got the engine in, and then we realized that we had to do a little bit of fabrication, if you want to say, to get the motor to work, as well as the transmission to work. Also, with all his home life and all, he just doesn't have time for it, and that's perfectly fine. So I said to him one Sunday afternoon, I'll never forget it, I said, "Hey, what are you doing with that C10?" And I was joking when I said it, but I was 100% serious. If he said yes, I said, "Hey, why don't you drop the C10 off at my driveway and I'll finish it for you, free of charge." So he said, okay. So that week, like 3 days later, this was in my driveway, and that weekend, motors completely in, transmissions completely in, and now here we are. We're going to put some headers on today. I would like to get the radiator all plumbed up and everything ready to go, as well as at least starting on the wiring. I know we can't completely finish it right now because we don't have fuel pumps and all that stuff, as well as this thing needs a new gas tank, this metal gas tank, and it's probably trash because this truck has been sitting for, at least from what we have been kind of figuring and told, about 10 to 15 years. This truck sat in a field. So what happened was it blew a head gasket or head gaskets. The previous owner took the heads off, put a tarp over it, and deserted it. That is what we can figure. This was also part of his family for a long time as well. So that's why I said in the first video that this is going to stay in the family for the kiddos when they get older and all that. So with that being said, let's get this hood off by myself and let's start wrenching. And here we go. Let's see what we got under here. Hopefully it's not all wet. And yes, victory. No wetness. So what we do need to do right now is I'll take this chain off and let's get this intake on there. Let's go ahead and bolt that on there. I guess it would be kind of smart to clean some of this off here, but I'm not going to bore you guys with that, so I'm going to go ahead and just clean it up and put the intake on for you. Alright, so there it is. A little cleaner, a little better. We're going to slap that intake on right now. There we go. It's starting to look like a real engine now. It's coming together. We got this all turquoised down. Really just need to clean it up. These intakes really aren't bad, especially when you throw a boost to them. They're not that bad, but they're just ugly. Now, what we need to do is figure out if we can get the radiator to work with stock fans and all that stuff. So the way that I measured it out should be okay, but I don't know if it's too wide. We may have to make a bracket or something to completely make it work, but let me just show you what we got here. It's all factory stuff, and it did rain here, so ignore the puddles. But there's the factory radiator with the stock fans, so that's going to work great with the factory computer that we have as well. So we're gonna try and see if it fits. Let's do it up. So what we're looking at here, I think we can make this work. Need to slide it this way a little bit. We're a little off center, but what I think we can do is that it has these little tabs down here at the bottom. It's about that long, and we could probably drill out something right in this area for them to slide down in and put a rubber bushing around it, so that this thing will sit as flush back. It'll probably sit up against this support right here. That way it'll look as factory as possible. We just need to measure it twice and make sure it lines up. But I think it's going to fit. If anything, we might have to bend part of that back or forward or something just to clearance that. But I don't know. I'll have to call the owner and see what he wants me to do. He's probably just going to say make it work. I think this is going to work. We're already lining up pretty good for this. This is looking good. All right, let's see what we're going to do. Also, I need to get this old thing out the way. It's garbage at this point. Unless somebody wants it, I don't know. But I think it's still good. But I think we can use the high pressure line for the back of this. I believe so. I don't think we have to get an adapter because this is 1986. I think 79, 80, something like that was the last year of them doing full standard sizes, and then they went to metric, and 80 or 79, 80 was the crossover year, whatever it was, because I know some things on my 79 Firebird over there were metric and some were standard. So being this is an 86, I think we should be good. See, this is the good thing about Chevy, is that they leak so much oil that they lubricate all your nuts and bolts, especially in the front of the engine, that any other brand, this would have been seized as long as this truck's been sitting outside in the elements. So thank you, Chevrolet, for your oil leaks. All right, so kind of going around a little bit. So this definitely needs replaced, but it should be fine for the time being. And what I'm going to do is it's anchored down right here. And it looks like, you know, we could definitely move it over because it needs to bolt into the back right there. So what I'm thinking is I could just unbolt it, swing it around here, go to the back, if it'll thread in, and maybe I can anchor it somewhere in one of these two holes or something, or maybe even create a new one over here. And I hate creating new holes, but sometimes you just got to do it when you're doing junk like this. And then this here, the low pressure line should just go right into this guy right there. If you can see that right there. So this is going to be replaced. I have some of this in the house, and put some new clamps on there as well. We should be good to go for that guy there. Alright, so if you guys don't know, these are fuel injection clamps. I like to use these for pretty much everything. They're a little bit more expensive, but they seem to be a little higher quality, especially for when reusing them. They don't kind of bend and fray and all that other stuff that the other cheap ones do. So I got some brand new line here, should be good, and we'll get that old nasty line off of there and we'll reroute this. Should work just fine. One more thing, always try and angle your clamps that so that you can get to them easily. Like this should have been at least 180 to round, and then we could stick our screwdriver through here and get it. Just, oh my goodness, it's gonna be a pain to get that out. Alright, so rotated this guy. The low pressure side, I had to bend it just a little bit, just a little line. That's all we needed. That's perfect. That's almost identical to what I had to do to my Firebird. Just a little line just like that, just to use the factory power steering pump off of the LS, which is perfect. And then now down below here, right there, we're going to try and rotate this guy and make it work. No promises, but we'll try. This is awesome. This is actually going to work. Right here, I'm trying to zoom in on there. Right here, it is threaded in. Now I need to put some Teflon or something on it, some sort of thread sealer, just to make sure, but I think it is tapered, so it should be okay, but just to make sure, I'm gonna put some Teflon on that. So it's coming out over here. I just need to kind of redo this line a little bit, but right there, we should be good. And we have clearance on the bottom. We got probably 2 inches. And that's going to be good enough for now. So I'm just going to bend this guy just a little bit. And thread it on in there. And we'll have power steering. This is awesome. This is kind of unexpected, but you know, that's kind of the things that you run into with stuff like this. You know, most of it you hear is like, oh, this happened, or I had to get this or that. And you know, hey, this worked out. This is good. Just like that, we have power steering. So I did put this guy back on there just so that this doesn't walk around any. This shouldn't walk around any. I mean, if it does, I mean, it's just a low pressure line. It should be fine. But the one thing that I did want to make sure that we did anchor back down is the high pressure. So that should be okay. We do have clearance for belt. Got about 2 inches. We're tidied up in there. Perfect, ready to go. Awesome, I love this. So here's what we're trying to do here. So obviously we don't fit right there like we mentioned before. And this is just about centered up as best as we can get it. So it should be okay. We're gonna put something across here so it'll hide all this mess anyway. But this is gonna work, and it will drop down just a little bit because I need to drill 2 holes like I mentioned before. And we're gonna drop it down. And we'll put those little rubber grommets on it and make sure that this thing doesn't bounce around and cling clang and everything else. But we're in here and we have the perfect amount of clearance. This is looking good. I'm pretty proud of this. I just need to measure where the holes need to be and drill them out, and we should be good to go. All right, so here we are the next day. I had to take a couple hours off. I had some family stuff I had to take care of, so I did get to drilling the holes. The owner said, hey, that's okay, let's go ahead and do that. He doesn't care. So there's my 2 holes. And then I got these 2 little grommets here that I think I might cut in half, not sure, but I may have to open those up just a little bit wider just so that they fit on there. Maybe not, they might stretch. I don't know, but just so kind of cuts down on the bouncing and all that stuff and noise, and that way this thing will be a little bit better. The diameter is perfect the way that I drilled it out, and this should just slide right on in there. All right, so that's what we got right there. This should be good enough to absorb something. Bumps, hopping over curbs, whatever truck stuff we got to do. All right, so let's get this guy in there. Let's see how it fits. Well, there you go. Measure 5 times, cut twice. Proves to get it every time. So one thing we probably have to do is get some sort of bushings around here. They make those, just standard stuff. Probably go to the junkyard and swipe those out of there. But just so that we don't have that after everything's installed, like I said, we should build something to kind of come over and cover all of this exposed area, just to tidy it up, make it look a little nice. Do some sort of sheet metal of some sort, or maybe, I don't know, if somebody online makes it, C10 people, I'm not sure. But for now, we're just gonna keep it as is. We'll just get some rubber grommets or something. Should tidy it up a little bit, get rid of all the rattles. But down below, we are good. We are perfect. So one more step closer. And I don't know about these. I mean, it's just plastic, but one thing that kind of scares me is that it's so close to these little inlets here, and I don't know if we'll actually need those. But I don't know where that goes. Probably right there, huh? Okay. Well, that's one thing done. Fixed. Right, now next we got 2 things that we got to do. Oh, looks like we're missing one of these. Well, good thing we have one, kinda. So we need to put this fan shroud and fans in here. Should fit. Already did test fit, should be good. And we need to get a clamperoo for that guy right there, and then we'll put this guy on. It's gonna be perfect. Perfect. So here's the thing that I found out that a lot of LS swap people probably don't know. Is one thing I had to do on my 79 Firebird over there when I upgraded the radiator, is that it had a bigger diameter inlet tube. This stock Suburban, Tahoe, Silverado hose would not work. So what I did is I would just happen to be changing the oil in my wife's Durango over there with the Hemi in it, and noticed that the hose is awfully similar, but it's a bigger diameter. So I was like, you know what if we try and get that? So it worked perfectly, and it actually looks better because it's actually less curved than this, but it works perfectly. I think I had to trim just a little bit off just because I think it was a little bit too long, but other than that, it's better than too short. So that was that's also an option that we can do if for one day we want to upgrade this radiator and it just happens to be a bigger diameter, is we can go with the Durango hose instead of the Silverado hose. So just a little tip. And just like that, we have our radiator, our fans. Just need to get a hose clamp for the bottom one, and we'll be good to go on this. All right, so next, before we put the headers on, which is super exciting, it's almost like the icing on the cake besides putting the wiring harness on. We are getting so close to getting this thing fired up. So what I think would be smart is we put that starter on before we have to take the headers off again. And here's the starter. It looks a little, I'm sure it's fine, but our connections are a little rusty. I'm just going to take these little nuts off and these connectors off and just kind of give them a little bit of sandpaper treatment. Just clean it up, make sure we have good connection for when we actually do fire this thing up. So that's what I'm going to do real quick, and then we'll hop under there and we'll put this thing up there. A little unnecessary, but get the connections a little cleaner, and should turn over a little quicker, hopefully with a better ground to it. So let's go ahead and get underneath of it. Installs just like that, just these two bolts. Don't over torque them now, and that's it. Now we have starter in, and we'll figure out all the wires and all that stuff when it comes down to doing the wiring harness. But here's the lesson here. So these are Speed Engineering headers. They're fairly cheap, and they are ready to go for, and supposedly should fit for an LS swap in one of these trucks. So kind of a neat thing, they sent you these gaskets and these style gaskets. So this is OEM style, and then this is your cardboard or whatever with the multi-layer. Garbage. Do not use these. I can't tell you, I can't stress you, do not use these. Factory ones, you can reuse those and they're still good. They can have 250,000 miles on them and reuse them and they're still good. Ask me how I know. My 79 Firebird over there, I was too cheap at the time. They have 250,000 miles on them and I reused them when I put headers on. Do not leak. Perfectly fine. So kind of a cool thing, they gave you brand new bolts. And we're going to use these guys, and these here, we're just going to throw them away. So let's get on in there, and let's see how difficult these are. It shouldn't be too bad. It looks like we got quite a bit of room on both sides. Hopefully I can get them both from the top, possibly. May have to come up from the bottom and kind of shimmy them on up here, but for the most part, they look pretty easy. So let's get them in here. So the first side, I had to go from underneath, bring it on up. And I don't have anything on there yet, but just to let you know, dang it, how these are supposed to go, you have this little tab right there, and that's going to go on the outside. So this guy, and we have offset right there, these two, let's see, should be like that. Should be good. All right, just from experience, some of these are a little closer to the actual header pipe itself, and it might be best to try and tighten those up first, just so you don't get a wrench stuck. So I don't know if this is going to be this way. I don't think my Firebird was this way, except for when I had the 400 in it. But just from experience, pay attention to these, see where they're at. I'm going to go ahead and snug this guy up first before I snug the rest of them up. There we go, one side in. It is looking so good. All right, so just another tip too, if you don't know, once this truck gets running and driving, let it sit there and idle or whatever, go through a couple heat cycles and then re-torque these guys, and you'll be amazed. You'll get another quarter turn or so out of it. You don't want to get it too tight, but you don't want it to be so loose as you got a little bit of an exhaust leak, and then you could throw off your NOx sensors and all that fun stuff. But just a little tip. Now we're on this side. It went right on in, perfect. Didn't have to do anything from underneath and hurt my elbows and possibly popping my shoulder out. Perfect. So slid it straight on in, and we're going to do the same thing with these. I believe these are for the back, the little tabs like I said earlier. Yep, looks like we're good just like that. Let's get it on in. And there's our second one fully installed. And I was wrong. The little tab goes on the front. But oh well. And look at the clearance down there. It's almost like these were made for this. It's amazing. So I guess we're going to do two things before we actually mess with the harness. And I don't think we're going to get to it in this video because I really want to go in depth and I don't want to miss anything. And I kind of want to start on a fresh day. But this is just going to kind of conclude the last thing we're going to do until the next video. We're going to stick the alternator back on. And again, I'm going to try and clean this up a little bit for them. And then we have the coils. And I don't think we'll be able to use the spark plug wires because they're kind of... well, I don't know. We might be able to use them, but I think they're going to be touching the header in some parts. I know that's the case I had in my Firebird, and we'll have to get the 45-degree boots instead of the 90-degree or the straight ones, whatever you want to call them. So we're going to tidy up this, and I think we're going to call it for today. And there's one thing knocked out, just a little tip. I don't know if you ever messed with these before. We got these little tabs in here that as you get these tighter, they compress this, so we ain't got no wigglage and all that stuff, if that's even a word. Like George Bush over here making up words. But anyway, sometimes you got to knock those guys out. Just get a little pry bar or something and you can pry it back, or get a little hammer if you can knock it out, and then this thing should slide right into place. And that's exactly what happened here. Two 15mm bolts, tighten it up, good to go. Alright, so here's the coils that we have here. They're the stock ones. I've always heard that the stock truck coils are just a little bit hotter than the car coils. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, they're definitely bigger. I don't know if that makes a difference or not. But what we're going to do, we're going to clean these up, put a little bit of brake clean on these, and these should shine up pretty nice. So, like I said, I don't know if we could use these or not. I think we're going to need the 45s. I might have some laying around in my LS junk that I've had collected over the years. And we can just stick something on here temporarily, but all in all, we need to order some 45s. Cleaned up good enough. It's about as good as I'm gonna get them, at least without taking everything all apart. And like I said, this isn't gonna be a show truck or anything like that. So good enough. Getting it running and driving is where we're at right now. We'll worry about all the look fancy after it's running and driving. So I don't know what bolt goes to what, but these are what we got. And I'm just gonna put the ugly studded ones in the back so you don't see them right off the bat, or try and hide them. I don't know why we need those or not. Maybe we do need them somewhere. Maybe we'll move them eventually one day. But we're gonna go ahead and stick these guys on there, and I think that'll be it for today. Okay. Alright, so as you can see, I did a little more work to it since the last time. But anyway, just a couple little things. Put the throttle body on, and I don't know if we're going to use this or not, or an actual cold air intake. Probably be best if we go to the other side because the battery's going to be over there. I don't know. I just put this on. I'm just looking at it. It looks so good. It almost looks like it belongs in there. That is so cool. I love it. I absolutely love this. I'm not going to do the wiring harness on this video. I'm going to leave it for the next video because I really want to go in depth, and that's honestly, for me, that is the most intimidating part, because I went through an LS swap about 8 years ago, and I got all the way to the wiring. I'm like, you know what, screw this, I'm going back to the 400 because I don't want to deal with the wires. And then I put the 400 in it. I'm like, this is not what I want. I always want to do an LS swap. So took the 400 back out, put another LS in it, and when it came down to the wiring, I wasn't afraid to ask for help. So don't be afraid to ask for help. There's going to be some things that you're not going to know how to do, and but a lot of times once you do it once, then you know how to do it, and you can teach other people, and that's where we're at right now. And with that being said, if you guys like videos like this and you want to keep following along, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy.